Howdy, everybody. We are live. This right here is Nevin Hanford. He is a liberal progressive TikToker. He is in a liberal hype house, and I'm sure y'all have seen him on your For You page before. He's a good friend of mine. I consider him a friend of mine. We have good conversations a lot.
Yeah.
So
What's up,
Nevin,
guys?
so how old are you? Where are you from? And what made you interested in politics?
I'm 16. I'm from Chandler, Arizona, and I'd probably say the 2016 election. I remember watching the debates, Republican and Democrat, and that probably got me involved the most because very interesting debates going on. But yeah.
I got you. So, what made you decide to start posting political content on TikTok?
I watched other people and was like, oh, you could post politics on TikTok. And I just made one video that kind of blew up. That I duetted some girl that was just asking questions. I was like, I mean, I can answer this, and that one blew up, and I'm like, I'm gonna keep on doing this.
I got you. That's fair. So, would you say that your political views align far left, liberal, moderate, or conservative?
I would say if we're looking at like the U.S. political spectrum of like mainstream, pretty far left. But if you go issue by issue, I'm pretty centrist with what the American people support. I would say on the issues.
I got you. So, out of all the 2020 presidential candidates, well, you support Bernie, obviously.
Yes, I do.
Don't need to ask that.
Yeah.
He actually suspended all of his ads.
Yeah, I know. I saw that.
Stuff, yeah. So he's probably going to drop out soon.
He's done skis. Yeah.
So out of all of Bernie's policies, which one is your favorite and why? Or you can give like two, whatever you want.
Yeah. I'd say Medicare for all. Just because I feel like that has the most impact on people's lives. I want to go into the med field. So I feel I want to help people with their health, and I feel like Medicare for all is just the kind of the most basic solution that every other country has done. It works very well. And just personally, I feel like it is a human right. You have a right to your own life, and if you get sick, you should get the help you need.
I got you. Yeah. So, what is one thing that you respect about the political party that opposes your views, or just like one thing that you may align your views with, rather than?
So not much with like the new neoconservative movement, but I agree.
What's the neoconservative movement?
Well, neoconservatives are like the political, the GOP, what it is now. But back in the day, like the paleoconservative, they were so like Rand Paul type figures against war. I agree with them on that. Free speech, hold that up. I respect Republicans on that. Whether I agree with them or not, I think you have a right to say whatever you want. I can disagree with you, but you have to say it. But the anti-war rhetoric on some people on the right, I like.
I got you. So, what is one thing that you disagree with your favorite presidential candidate, Bernie Sanders, on?
We're talking about policy or like how he holds himself?
One or the other.
Policy-wise, I wish he went a little bit further on decriminalization and legalization of drugs. And like how he holds himself, I wish he was a little bit more aggressive, kind of more like a Trumpian type figure. Kind of just not holding back and going at it. Yeah.
I mean, he does go at it a little bit.
He does. He is definitely more like Trump.
Famous man for putting his hands up. Oh, that's I like watching that. That's very interesting. Yeah. So, what do you? So, say Bernie went up against Trump in the general election. What do you think that his chances are of beating Trump would be, as it sits now?
I think Bernie definitely has. Well, right now with the economy, I think any Democrat could really beat Trump, but I'm guessing the economy is going to improve before the election. Hoping it will. And then I think Bernie would definitely have the best shot just because of his economic populism that does really well in the Rust Belt. The election is going to come down to the Rust Belt. And I think Bernie does very well there. Okay,
so what do you think about the severity of the coronavirus, and how long do you think this whole pandemic is going to last?
I think it's pretty severe. It all depends on how we react, how fast we react. I think Trump at first was a little slow to get stuff rolling. I think he's doing much better now after he realized how severe it was.
I can agree with that.
Probably, I'm hoping, some scientists say it will go until spring of next year. Some say it will end in the fall of this year.
I've heard some say it's going to end in like late May, early June.
Yeah. So I think it'll definitely be over probably mid-October time.
I got you. So, do you think that the media is inflating this outbreak to be worse than it actually is, or do you think that it's not being, harsh enough about it?
Yeah, I think they're not inflating it in the sense of making it more than it's out to be, but I think they're doing more coverage on it when there's other issues that are still going on. I mean, you watch when the corona outbreak happened, they kind of completely dropped the presidential primary on the Democratic side, and they solely focused on that.
Yeah.
So I think that it is definitely how their rhetoric on it is definitely right, but I think they might be, talking about it too much.
Yeah, I got you. So, how do you feel about Trump's response to the virus? And if you dislike it, what would you want him to do differently?
Yeah. So I think at first, again, he was pretty slow. I agreed with him on shutting down the borders. I think we need to do that maybe faster, shut down not just China, but every other country in and out. I would definitely, the bill is kind of stuck in Congress right now to have an economic stimulus for the people. But I think we definitely need to.
It's stuck because the Senate Democrats are like.
That's true. The Democrats are not doing good on it either.
They're filibustering it right now.
True. We definitely need a moratorium on payments, like.
Bro,
rent.
okay, whoever keeps saying this shit in the chat, y'all got to stop that bullshit, all right?
Yeah, stop that, man. Wait, how does that go up on the screen?
I click it.
Oh, okay. But I definitely say we need some type of UBI because, with the unemployment reaching how high it's getting.
Well, it's not really UBI. It's just UBI is more of like a permanent thing. It's just like a check in the time of a crisis, I guess, if you will.
But I think we definitely need to do something before April, because April 1st is when payments are starting to due for mortgage and rent and car payments, and they're not going to have enough money. I mean, they're getting laid off, unemployment is skyrocketing, so we need to do something, either a payment type system, or put a moratorium on all payments that are necessary.
Yeah, I got you. There was that Senator Elizabeth Warren actually proposed, like, just for the government, instead of giving out like a stimulus, would be just to pay off everybody's college debt.
Yeah.
Which I don't think that would benefit everybody, because not everybody has college debt. I mean, like, there's people that are literally like people that have high school degrees and don't have college degrees that are suffering right now too. Probably the most part, people with just high school degrees are suffering because they have the jobs that will be taken usually because of like their own hourly jobs and stuff like that.
That's true. But like in this time of crisis, we don't want people having to focus on paying student loan debt when they need to pay for groceries.
Yeah, that's why Trump.
Water bill.
That's why Trump frees like their interest rate, like they're not having to pay interest on them anymore.
I don't think they should pay it at all, for at least temporarily. I obviously support canceling all student loan debt, period. But at least now we should put a hold on it. You don't have to pay it, and then you got to remake it after the time is over.
Yeah, we can definitely get into talking about like that student loan debt thing later, and why I don't think that it should be canceled. But yeah, we can get into that later. So guys, let's look at the comments now. We've already gone through all of our questions, and it's only been 7 minutes. That was pretty quickly.
Pretty quick.
So guys, abortion. That one always gets brought up first. Would you like to talk about that?
Sure, let's do it.
All right, so I'll state my position, and then you can state your position, and then we can refute each other's points, I guess. So I am strictly pro-life. The only necessary case that I see abortion being fit for would be like if a medical doctor deems the pregnancy to be like a life-threatening thing for the mother, or in the instance of like, say, like a really young girl gets raped, like maybe under the age of like 14 or 15 or 16, something like that. That's what I think. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, so my position is I think it should be completely legal up to 21 to 24 weeks, because around that time is when it has most, if not all, the characteristics of a human. And then after that point, only legal, like you said, if the mother's life is at risk, or they know for certain the baby's going to die anyways after childbirth. That'd be my only two instances after 24 weeks. But yeah, that's my position. But I would say when you state that you would be okay with an abortion if the woman's life is at risk, you're kind of admitting up front that a fetus and a woman, they don't have moral equivalency, right? Because obviously in that situation, you would pick the woman's life over the fetus's life. Yeah,
in that situation, but I don't think that a woman 90% of abortions happen just because a woman doesn't want to have the baby, or it's like
That's
for
true.
an economic reason. And I don't think that any abortion in that case should be necessary ever. But like, if the woman's life is at stake, who's already been on this earth for this many years, I mean, I think that anybody can say that the woman's life is more valuable than the fetus's life. But I don't think that economic reasons or rape, I guess, for the example, like if a 20-year-old woman gets raped, I don't think that trumps the fact that is a human being in there. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
I know
so if the fetus is gonna medically hurt the woman, but then you don't think if the fetus is gonna financially hurt that woman. If
well,
that woman can provide,
She can give it up for adoption.
That's true, but the problem with adoption is it's scientifically proven that once that baby comes out of the womb, the mom's emotions takes over, and she's not thinking logically because an emotion connection is kind of formed right away when a fetus comes out of the womb. And so they tend to think more with emotions, and they don't want to give it up because it's much harder to put it up for adoption than it is to have an abortion. Because when you put it up for adoption, you have an emotional connection. And so you're not necessarily thinking logically about how is this going to impact my life in the future? Am I going to be able to provide for this baby? So that's why I think we need to have an adoption as an option, obviously, but we also need to have an abortion as an option, because once she gets pregnant, she's thinking logically, I'm not connected to this in any way. You know, it's a zygote in me right now. You know, whatever it is.
Okay.
I should have the option to terminate this because I'm not going to be able to financially support it.
Okay, what's your point?
Well, you're drawing the line. You always like to bring up adoption as the route, but you can't really just solely focus on adoption because, again, they're not thinking logically when you do adoption. It's much harder to put a baby up for adoption than it is to get an abortion. And so I want that woman thinking logically about, is that baby going to impact her life? How is it going to impact?
Okay, but I'm failing to see like your point. I don't understand.
Because you can't simply have adoption as a route, because, again, once that baby comes, but they're not going to.
I don't see a problem with the mother keeping the baby.
What if she can't financially support it?
There's plenty of like institutes out there, like pro-life institutes out there that want to help mothers, though.
There's a lot of government programs that are out there to help them too, and you're against most of those.
You're right, I am.
Yeah, so it's kind of contradictory. You're going to force a woman to have a baby that she knows she can't provide.
A woman to have a baby. If the woman had consensual sex, that is not forcing a woman to have a baby. There's
what
plenty.
If she decides
you can buy condoms for $3 and they're 98% effective.
Would you support making condoms free at school?
I don't know about free at school. I mean, it's $3 at like your local gas station or Walgreens or whatever, if you will.
Yeah,
I mean,
true, but 73% of families are living paycheck to paycheck. 53% of families don't have enough money for a $400 bill. You can't suspect the people that are not going to make the correct decisions to then be able to buy a $3 condom. You know, these people, they're not.
Okay, but that's not the baby's fault though, or the fetus's fault, or the zygote's fault. That's not. Again, that's
true. It is a woman's fault, but I believe she can have. You make one mistake. In which, whatever the reason may be, you weren't thinking properly. It was in the moment. You didn't know, because a lot of schools teach abstinence and they don't teach proper sex.
Well, yeah, I am for like teaching like how to have safe sex in school, because the abstinence part, sex education obviously is not working.
Yeah.
I mean, but
it's in the moment. If they make a mistake, I think they should have a redo in life. I don't think that one mistake should change their whole life ahead of them. Especially when they're younger, in that now, you know, what you're going to have that kid, you can't financially support it. You're going to drop out of school. You're going to try to get a job. They can't afford childcare. I support making childcare free. So I would say if you're going to make abortion illegal, you have to put measures in place. You got to have childcare, universal childcare. That way, if they do have that baby, they can.
I don't.
So you expect the woman, she knows she can't afford this baby.
If she can't afford it, she can give it up for adoption.
That's what I'm saying. She's thinking emotionally at that point. She's not thinking logically about, am I going to be able to afford for this baby?
Okay, but I shouldn't have to pay for somebody else's universal child care.
But that's such a disadvantage. You pay for other people's roads. You pay for other people's education. You pay for other people's.
Okay, everybody gets use out of roads. I use roads. Roads are necessary to get to businesses. It's
true. Everyone would get benefit out of a society in which people have the option to put their child in childcare. Everyone would have that universal childcare.
The only people that would benefit from it are the people that actually need it.
Or people that have children, right?
Well, yeah, but the people that can afford children usually, the people that try and have children like consensually, like that are trying to have children, 98% of the time can afford it, obviously, because they're thinking logically. I'm saying that I don't think I should have to pay for somebody else's mistake, basically, of having consensual sex and not using the proper protection when you can get proper protection that's 98% effective for $3. I don't think that I should have to pay for that. I don't think that any other taxpayer should have to pay for that.
So if you don't have kids, or should they pay taxes to K-12 education in their city? If they don't have kids, they're not benefiting from that at all.
I don't think they should.
You don't? Okay.
No.
I guess I believe in more of a societal group. What's good for some people is going to be beneficial for all of society. If we have less people that are living paycheck to paycheck, that's a good thing for society. That means you have more workers. That means you have more labor being produced, and you have a better economic system. You have a better society as we know it. Because if you can't afford childcare, you can't get a job. If you can't get a job,
okay, but
the economy.
Nothing is free though. It always comes out of somewhere.
True.
When you tax other people, that it all adds up. There's nothing that's really free. Like when you have to tax people for more stuff, say you have to tax. I don't know Bernie's exact plan to pay for the universal child care. Probably
that one's completely paid for with the wealth tax, but yeah. But I mean, there's other policies.
Like the wealth tax, like income tax, or like just like taxing like on people's wealth that they have. Like which part? Income?
It's a wealth tax. So that's basically where you evaluate their wealth as a whole, and then you tax them it's 2% to 8%.
So you're taxing somebody's net worth, basically.
Yeah, you're taxing how much capital they own. Because the rich people, what they do.
You think that the rich people should have to pay for other people's mistakes?
Not other people's mistakes. No, they should have to pay taxes towards a society that has social safety nets there for people that make mistakes in life. Yes. If they make one mistake in life, a good society is saying we're here for you. Because what's good for you is going to be in theory good for all of society. You would agree it's better if mothers can afford childcare, correct?
Well, yeah, but I don't think that it should be at the expense of other people's wealth. Those mothers don't have a right to rich people's money. I mean,
why are you drawing the line here? Why are you drawing the line there? You don't say that about K through 12 education. You don't say that about roads.
No, I don't think that if you don't have kids, you should have to pay for K through 12 education either. That comes out of property tax.
Okay, I mean that's a very unpopular opinion. Most people do think that, but
I'm very libertarian on pretty much everything economic. I guess that's just where we differ on opinion.
Yeah.
Okay, so next question, guys. You make that voice crack. Yeah, I'm sorry.
This man is a pure socialist, and no, I'm not at all a socialist. I'm most social democrat. Universal healthcare.
We can do universal healthcare. Okay. So I'll state my position, and then you can say yours. So I don't think that universal healthcare would benefit us as a nation because it's going to cost more. Obviously, I know there's been some studies that show it could cost less over time, but I fail to see how these studies come up with this when we're already paying. I don't know. We have how many Americans are uninsured right now? You probably know.
87 million.
87 million Americans
uninsured or underinsured. Yes.
Uninsured or underinsured. Okay. Yeah. I don't understand how a system that covers more Americans would somehow cost less. Yeah. I fail to make that connection. And also, if you look at other countries in the world that have universal healthcare, a perfect example right now is Italy. They are completely overwhelmed. They have universal healthcare in Italy.
That's not due to universal healthcare. That's because they have a very large majority of elderly people compared to every other country.
Well, yeah, but they're letting elderly. I'm not just talking about the deaths. Anybody that's over 80, they just let them die. They don't even put them on a ventilator.
That has nothing to do with universal healthcare, though. That's just because their virus hit very hard there. There's no relation at all.
Fair enough.
You look at
Fair enough. So in Canada, if you look at like the wait times for like non-life-threatening surgeries,
elective procedures.
It's not insanely longer than it is here.
It's a little bit longer here.
It's a little bit longer in Canada than it is here. If you look at countries like the UK, you see the same thing over there. And if you look at like the medical advancements in the world, like by medicine, like
75% of our medical innovations are publicly funded. So it's not the profit motive that's doing that.
They're publicly, they're funded by the government. Okay. Mm-hmm. But again, that's not the health advancements is not universal health care. It's different.
Well, it would say exactly the same because we're not publicizing healthcare. We're publicizing healthcare insurance. So doctors in hospitals are still going to be completely private. They're going to have competition, profit motive, and all that.
Doctors in the hospitals would not be paid the same.
Yes, it would. So under Medicare for All, you basically take the system that it is now. We're not losing money on how much we pay doctors. It's how much the insurance companies take. So basically right now we have a system in which you have your money. You pay it towards a middleman, an insurance company. They take out their profit because they're obviously a private company. They need profit. And then they pay the rest of that towards your doctor or your hospital.
Right. But the government would, if the government was giving this insurance, the government would determine how much to pay the doctors. And I know in Canada, doctors on average get paid more than here, but you can't necessarily look at that. I mean, America has a humongous military budget, which I don't necessarily support, like $1 trillion military budget like Trump is proposing. But I do think we need to keep a strong military, but we'll go into that later.
Yeah.
Anyways, what was I trying to say? We spend so much, say, on like entitlements like Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid already. We spend like over $3 trillion of that, which is like with $3 trillion of our federal budget on that. So like, I don't think that the government would have the money to pay doctors the same prices they're getting paid now. I thought it makes
3 points. So how Medicare for All, like so-and-so called, saves money. Right now, because we have that profit motive in insurance, you're basically taking that away. So let's set a hypothetical. Let's say your healthcare costs $6. Your insurance company is going to charge you 10. They're going to take 4 of it out for their profit and then give the 6 to your doctor. Medicare for All simply says, you know what, we're taking that out. We're a government, so we don't have any profit motive. We're going to charge you $6. You're going to give it to us, and then you're going to get the doctor.
But that $6 isn't guaranteed, though. That $6 for that doctor isn't guaranteed.
Yeah, but insurance companies and doctors negotiate prices now. It's going to be the same exact thing, except it's a government and doctors negotiate. Do
you think that the government is going to negotiate the same as like a private entity with a doctor? No, the government inherently wants to give the least amount of money as possible to everything other than the military. So
if you look at how much the studies
possible.
So if you look at the 22 studies that say Medicare for All saves money, it assumes that every salary of doctors and hospitals stays exactly the same. So that's assuming that they don't even negotiate down prices. That's assuming they stay exactly the same as they are. We could argue if that's a little too high, a little too low. I would say doctors get paid pretty, I think, fairly. I don't think we need to change that. We're losing money in U.S. healthcare because of the profit incentive and then all of the bureaucratic stuff of we have, thousands of private insurance companies, and these hospitals have to hire a lot of staff to deal with that. And under Medicare for All, you look at like Medicare today. Medicare saves so much money because Medicare, it's just a Medicare card. You get your healthcare. You don't have to do any transactions with a middleman. So when you look at Medicare for All, it's not assuming that you actually don't change any salaries and you pay them exactly the same. It still saves money because you're taking away the profit motive insurance companies and you're taking away all of the bureaucratic stuff that goes on in insurance. Currently.
Right, but what's going on with Medicare and Medicaid currently isn't anything with a private entity taking out profit. That's
why they're cheaper. That's why Medicare per capita is cheaper than private insurance, private healthcare.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is I'm failing to make the correlation to how the government is going to possibly save money when they're already not having to pay a private entity for extra.
It's not the government saving money. It's the people saving money. It's not the government saving money. It's the people. That if you make less than $500,000 a year, you will save money under Medicare for All because you pay so much money in copays, deductibles, out-of-pocket expenses.
Okay, but Medicare for All isn't as good of coverage though.
It's better coverage. You're right.
No,
it's better.
Not. No, it's not.
Yes, it is. Most private insurance companies do not include eye care, glasses, mental health, or at-home services. Medicare for All includes that. So it actually is more.
But still, going back to that point, you cannot guarantee that the government is going to pay those doctors the same as they were before.
No, but they pay police their wages, and you don't have an issue with that. So
that's police. Law enforcement. That police is different than doctors. Policemen don't have to spend $250,000 and 14 years of their life getting an education just to be a police.
Well, that would be free under Bernie, so they wouldn't have to deal with that either. They'd have no student loan debt.
But that shouldn't be free. Why should that? Okay, what, you don't need to go to school that long. You do to be a doctor, but you can. I mean, there's self-made billionaires that didn't even go to college, that dropped out of college.
No, I'm not medical school. I'm talking about public education. So why do you drop? I guess you want to transition into college now.
I mean, I didn't really bring it up. You kind of brought it. I mean, you kind of transitioned into that.
Yeah, I don't know if they want to. But yeah, empirically, every study says it does save money. We can discuss the merits of it, but it's to say like, oh, it's other people stealing money. It's like, no, every other social program we have right now benefits everyone. Medicare for All benefits everyone. Will you agree to that? It benefits everyone. Everyone can use it.
I don't think that it would benefit everybody. The only people that it would benefit are the people that can't afford it, that can't afford regular insurance.
But if you're rich, you're still paying copays and deductibles. You'd still pay less and get the same care.
You wouldn't get the same care.
Yes, you would. If I go to my doctor right now, Under Medicare for All, nothing changes. I go to that same doctor. I actually have more freedom under Medicare for All because with my dad's insurance, I cannot go to every doctor I want. You know, you have a plan and you can go to those ones. Under Medicare for All, I have the most freedom. I can go to any doctor I want, any hospital I want.
You can't go to any hospital you want under Medicare for All.
Yes, you can.
There will be private hospitals. There's private hospitals. There will be private hospitals. If a system like Medicare for All was invented,
Medicare for All is 98% of healthcare would be covered under it. I mean, yes, you can't have a private hospital.
I know, but it would just be so expensive. It would be so expensive.
Yeah, it's expensive, but it's less expensive than what we're doing now.
Okay, I'm not just talking about the people. I'm talking about federal spending. To get this, you're going to have to raise taxes somewhere.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's something with the wealth tax as well.
No, Medicare for All, the mass majority of it is by a 4% income tax and a 7.5% payroll tax. But both of those, when you look at it,
okay, so that's 4% of your income already gone, and then another 7% of your payroll automatically gone.
No, but it saves money because if you look right now, the average family pays $12,000 for their healthcare insurance. That's his healthcare insurance. That's what they pay on average. You count the monthly payments, the co-pays, the deductibles. $12,000. Now you take the median income of $60,000 in the U.S. You take 4% of that. It's $1,200.
Right.
So are they paying 4%, $1,200? But they're saving massive amounts of money.
But there's but Bernie still doesn't know how much exactly Medicare for All would cost. No, he doesn't. They literally asked him about it in the debates, and he could not give an answer.
Yes, because you got to understand these plans are very complex, and you can't simply ask someone to memorize stuff.
Okay, I looked at his website a few weeks ago, and he didn't have anything on there that talked about how he would pay exactly.
In total, Medicare falls 47 trillion
over a 10-year period.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're currently spending like 30 trillion.
No, we're currently spending 17.5 trillion.
Over a 10-year period on entitlement. On Medicare? No.
Yes, 17.5 trillion is Medicare, Medicaid, VA. That's what we're currently spending.
That's an insane amount of money already. And you want to add more to that?
30 trillion more, because you get 17.5.
That's an insane amount of money, dude.
Yeah, but he raises it all. You can fearmonger about the price, but he raises it all.
I'm not trying to fearmonger. I'm just saying that's a lot of money.
Mm-hmm. He pays for it all, and it saves people money.
Well, he pays for it all on the notion that it would work, but we don't know that it will work.
Why wouldn't it work? It works in every other developed country.
It doesn't work in every other developed country. You look at Canada; it doesn't work as well. I mean,
Canada's health. I guarantee. I know Canada's healthcare system has a lot of issues, but empirically, they're better than ours. We think 37.
It has. You look at any country with universal healthcare. There's always issues with rationing. I mean, in Canada,
but we have those issues too. Why are you knowing that we have rationing issues too?
Not as much with private insurance.
Yes, we do. It
depends on your coverage. It depends on your coverage.
Yeah, exactly. It depends on your coverage, and your coverage is based on how much we in the United States we do a wallet biopsy, which means how you ration the care is if you have more money, you get care sooner than if you have less money. It's called the wallet biopsy. Hospitals do it all the time.
I know.
And so in other countries, do they ration care? Of course, every country has to ration care. That's just.
But it would be more. Okay, but here's what I'm saying: the government inherently is going to try and spend the least amount of money they can as possible. So therefore, if something like Medicare for All was invented, the rationing would be severe. I mean, all you have to do is look at it. You just have to look at it in Canada. It happens in Canada all the time.
Let's talk about rationing. How many people die in the United States each year because they don't have health care?
It's like 120,000 or something like that.
68. That's
I've read somewhere 128,000, but
the current studies put it between 45 and 68,000.
Yeah, and I understand. But
how many does Canada have? How many does Canada have?
I don't know. I understand.
How many does Norway have?
Okay, but here's the thing that I don't understand about that number. If you walk into a hospital and you are in dire need of healthcare, they have to give you healthcare.
Yes, but you will go in medical bankruptcy after. We have 500,000 people that are bankrupt because of medical care.
But why is it other people's responsibility to pay for other people's misfortunes?
It's not. That's why I believe in universal coverage. You're not paying for other people's, you're paying into your own. Like Social Security, you're not paying for other people's, you're paying into it, and then you get the benefits.
Oh no, you do not get everything out of Social Security that you pay into it. That is not even
You're right. You're right. People now actually are not going to get as much benefits because the Republicans are cutting it, and so the amount that you put into it, they're not getting the seniors right now.
No, I'm fine. Right. I'm fine with cutting it. I could care less. If I could go back in time, I would get rid of everything that FDR did. That's why our deficit is so big right now, is because of everything FDR did, because we're spending over $3 trillion every single year on entitlements.
But is society better off because of it? I would say yes. I would say it's a good thing that
I don't know if it is.
I think it's a good thing that people can retire at a young
Well,
age.
yeah, but here's the thing though. People are putting all this money into Social Security and they're never getting it back. If people just put this money away in like a 401k fund and invested it, they would have far more money to live on than getting it in
People
Social
don't
Security.
have a lot of people don't have 401ks. That I mean, you gotta.
Okay, well, okay. Do you know how like the Social Security thing works? Whenever you take, so if you own your own business, they automatically take
half
50. No, they automatically take like 15% out of your paycheck if you own your own business. If you don't, it's like 7.5%. So if people were smart and saved that 7.5% instead of having to pay that into Social Security and put that into a 401k or into a Roth IRA, at the end of the day, after working for say 35, 40 years, there would be way more money left in there than they would ever get out of Social Security.
Yeah, but I think it's the government's job to provide a safe retirement. I don't think it's people's personal responsibility to do that when they're living paycheck to paycheck. That's the last thing on their mind is a 401k. When they're just trying to figure out how they're going to pay for my. If they're
already getting that taken out, and they didn't have to get it taken out, then they could put it away.
Yeah, but they don't because again, they're not dealing with.
Exactly, they don't.
Only the rich do. Most the upper class, yes, they have 401ks. The working.
A lot of people have 401ks. Not just the rich.
But the very poor don't because they're simply not worried about 401ks when they're living paycheck to paycheck.
Okay, but they would have more money if they didn't automatically get 7% taken out from Social Security and 7% taken out for Medicare and Medicaid.
Okay, and if you have more money, you can do that too separately. But we need to have a baseline somewhere.
I don't agree with that. I mean, fair enough.
I mean, most Republicans agree to Social Security. It's a very popular program.
Just because it's popular doesn't mean
anything.
I know.
Gay rights.
How do you? I mean, I think me and him agree with everything on gay rights. Bernie finna drop out. He's a socialist. Guns. What do you think about guns?
We're going to be exactly the same. You have the right to have a gun, Second Amendment right. I just think we need basic regulations. I think if you need a license to drive a car, you should have a license to. Would you? I don't know if you ever heard of this. Would you be okay with a licensing system where, like, similar to after you take a driving test to get your license? What if you had to take a shooting test? You had to know how to properly use a gun.
Well, you already have to do that if you're going to concealed carry, but not just to like buy a rifle.
To buy any gun.
No, I don't think that that's necessary. I mean, it's just another kind of infringement of the Second Amendment. That's just
that would be my farthest I would go. Just a basic licensing system so that you have to prove that you know how to store a gun.
One thing that I do think that we need to do is we need to have better mental health screenings because I don't think that like people with schizophrenia or like severe depression should be able to own a gun. I mean, that's just there's a lot of people that shoot up schools that have schizophrenia and stuff like that.
Of course, yes. As you're the government, you have all the rights until you prove that your rights can be taken away. I mean, obviously your rights can be taken away if you're in jail. You don't have the right to vote.
Yeah.
If you have a mental disease, you don't get to own a gun.
Immigration. We might disagree there.
I mean, my basic position, I'm obviously for a strong border. I think the current system is so obscure that I'm not going to blame immigrants for coming illegally because it takes years and thousands of dollars to come in. I'm completely for a secure border, but I think first we have to create a faster path to citizenship, and then we can have a secure border and deport people who come illegally.
Well, see, here's the one problem that I have with that. So whenever you're making say like the news put something out that the government was making some type of immigration reform to make it easier for immigrants to come here, or not necessarily just make it easier for them to come here, say like a pathway to citizenship for the immigrants that are already here.
Mm-hmm.
Would you support like a pathway to citizenship for the immigrants that are already here?
Yes, because when they came, the pathway that was available was so fucked up that I support giving them another option because
so I kind of agree with you on that one. So I'll tell you like what I think we should do, and then you can tell me what you think we should do. So I think that what we need to do first before we do any immigration reform whatsoever, like with a pathway to citizenship, is build the wall, because when you are building the wall or securing the border is left fairly open, and we already have like over 1,000 miles of unprotected border. And so like if you're making a pathway to citizenship, you're going to have a lot of immigrants that are coming in whenever they hear news of like America making a pathway to citizenship, because like they're obviously going to want to be included if they're going to make it easier. So I think that we need to build that wall and make it harder for them to get in first, because just so that we don't have like a massive we already have like hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants that come in every year from the southern border alone. And I think that we need to build that wall so that it gets more secure there, enforce everything at the border more, and then after when that's done, I think that we can definitely make some sort of pathway to citizenship to where I guess we do kind of like a
merit-based program.
Yeah, like a merit-based program. So like we look at what you've done while you're here.
Yeah.
If you've been beneficial, if we see you as an asset to our society, I think that we should allow you to stay. And if you've done nothing here, say you've like sold drugs or something, which I know like actually in most states, immigrants actually commit less crime than natural-born citizens, which is true. I'm not going to deny that. But yeah, like a merit-based system to where we look at what you've done and we look at how you've benefited our country while you're here. And if you haven't helped us at all, you've just done illegal stuff, get out. But if you have benefited us, you can stay and stuff like that.
But my thing is I'm for a secure border, but a wall doesn't do that. Over 80% of illegal immigration does not happen at land areas excluding ports of entry. Most immigration occurs either 1 through ports of entry, 2 by sea, or 3 by overstaying visas or green cards. So I'm all for a secure border, but if we're going to waste trillions of dollars of taxpayers' money on a wall, that's
trillions of dollars.
Billions.
It's like $20 billion. I would be perfectly fine with taking 20 to 50 billion out of the military budget to build the wall.
But it's not gonna solve the mass issue of illegal immigration. Most illegal immigration does not happen in those areas. It just doesn't.
Yeah. But listen. So here's how I see it. So like if you build the wall, that'll make it harder for that, I guess, 20 or so percent that cross through the southern border. That would make it harder for them to get. That would make it easier for the border agents to do their job there. So there wouldn't have to be as much like security personnel, I guess, or officers at that part of the border, if you will. And then we can focus more of ICE at like the seaports and more of ICE at like the ports of entry to make immigration checks more. I mean, we may disagree. That's how
I'm not simply saying it's just not. Most illegal immigration doesn't happen there, so why waste money building something that's really not going to solve it?
20% of like 200,000. That's a pretty good amount.
That 80% number is excluding the ports of entry. So I know this. I think it's 80% is not happening at the borders at all, at land borders. So that 20%, we'd have to look into what percentage occurs through ports of entry, which I do know is a very large amount of illegal immigration does actually happen through ports of entry. Hidden, but yeah.
I'm saying if we build the wall, I think that it'll be a good investment over time because a lot of sex trafficking actually does occur through the border. Like
I'm not like a typical Democrat and like the wall. Like I mean, it's for border security. My whole thing is we first have to get a faster way to citizenship, and we have to hold up asylum laws, which we're currently not doing. I mean, if you're fleeing from wars in Central America, I think you should be at least temporarily asylum, and then you could. Go. I think we need to do that because then you could start.
Yeah, I'm not against this. I'm not against asylum at all.
We would be more than we thought.
Yeah, I don't agree with the GOP on a lot of things. I'm actually thinking of taking down my GOP flag because I don't agree with the GOP a lot. They definitely align more with my beliefs than the Republican Party does, or than the Democratic Party does. Sorry. Hold on, my mom just texted me. Okay. Talk about Palestine. We might disagree here. Palestine does not exist. It's not on the map. Hasn't existed since like the 40s.
Okay, but there's still a large group of Palestinians that are being infringed on their homeland, that they claim to be their homeland. Whether you think it's their homeland or not, we still have a massive group of people.
Well, Israel did have it before Palestine had it, and then Palestine took it over, and then we went in there and took it back over for Israel because Palestine was committing genocide against the Jewish people.
Yeah, and Israel's committing genocide against the Palestinian people now.
They're not just like killing thousands of Palestinian people.
They're bombing schools, they're bombing buses, they're doing extreme things. And
which I don't agree with. I don't think that Israel should be doing that, but I think that it is Israel's right to the land.
What's the solution then? Do you make a separate country? You just let Israel keep on bombing and killing?
No, the U.S. should, as the U.S. has a lot of influence on Israel, I think that the U.S. should tell Israel that they better stop doing that shit.
Do you think we should stop giving them billions of dollars a year until they uphold human rights?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't think that we should necessarily give them billions of dollars anyway.
That's
a waste of money. They don't do really anything for us.
Agreed. It is a waste of money. I think it's a waste of money because Israel has universal health care, and we're still giving them money, and then we say we can't do universal health care. But we're giving money to them, and they do have universal health care.
I mean, yeah, I understand that you're all for universal health care. I think that we would see salary decreases in doctors and rationing problems. That's
fine. I mean, we can
that's how I
disagree
would.
on the, yeah,
That's
we can disagree on the
that's
merit
what
of
I
it.
think would happen.
I just don't like people saying how are you going to pay for it when we know how you're going to pay for it and it saves people money. You can disagree with it completely. I just don't like it. But yeah, I personally believe in a two-state solution because there's a massive amount of Palestinian people there. Make the Gaza Strip somewhat of a homeland for them, and say no, Israel, you cannot be coming in here and infringing on their settlements. But
I don't think that we should have the I don't we should they should definitely not be allowed to bomb Palestinian schools. That's for sure.
It's horrible.
I think anybody can agree on that.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Genders. What do you think about gender?
All right, genders. So biologically speaking, gender is like not in science. It just isn't. Gender is not a concept in science. It's completely around sex. But when you get into what gender is, sex is predominantly about your organs, your sex organs. And as a society, because we don't already know what people's sex organs are, we have to do our best inference of whether they're male or female. So the best inference the best analogy I can have to this is you've probably had it in times when you're in public and you see someone and you don't know if they're a man or a woman, right? And you probably had that happen where you really can't tell. You're like, they have long hair, but they look like a man, but they, it's kind of
once or twice. I mean, I live in Texas, so like most people here are like pretty but like
people have definitely. I'm sure people in the chat who are against that definitely say, yeah, that's happened. And what do you call them? When I do it, I just point out like they because I don't know. So gender is simply just what society has done to try to identify their sex based on their physical characteristics, their hair, their muscle, whatever. But when you look at what gender is, because it's just trying to figure out if they're male or female, everyone can have male, they can have feminine the feminine characteristics, and they can have masculine, characteristics. If you have long hair, someone could say, oh, you're kind of a feminine male. So basically all gender is trying to define what category you're in based on the mix of different characteristics of femininity or masculinity you have. So it is by definition a spectrum. I mean, you're trying to identify. You have 0 and 1, and in the middle is 0.5, and you're trying to figure out if people are less than 0.5 or greater than 0.5, male or female, and they can have different characteristics of both. And so how many genders are there? I mean, you can't ask that. That's like asking how many numbers are between 0 and 1. Society has said there's 2 genders, but you could obviously not be a complete male or a complete female. Most people aren't a complete male or a complete female.
How are most people not a complete male or complete female?
Because that's not how genetics works. You don't simply inherit all male genes that code for all masculine features.
Well, I think that what determines male or female is your chromosomes. It's not not your external. Not your X. I don't think it's your external.
Your XX or XY. I mean, there's other ones too. They predominantly define your sex organs. But hair, lip size, a lot of these muscle structure, they're not at all based on the chromosomes. It's separate genes and other chromosomes that are inherited.
Yeah, sure.
So again, you could have a male sex organs, but have very feminine characteristics. You can have a feminine composition in your brain and feel like you're a female. That's what gender is for.
Yeah, but I think that your XXXY chromosomes, like your what corresponds with your sex organs, I think that's what determines gender. I mean, gender theory wasn't even a thing until Francis Dubois. I think that's who invented gender theory.
But it's existed for Native American populations. It's existed for.
That's true, but like in American society, this wasn't even like a thing.
You're right, because gender. What is gender? Because gender is trying to state based on what you see what sex you are. So obviously, you can intertwine them sometimes, but sometimes it doesn't match up. You can't deny that. That's a real thing. Gender dysphoria. Sometimes.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so you're saying that all gender is based on XX. Well, then how does gender dysphoria happen? They inherited.
Well, gender dysphoria is just when somebody thinks that they're a gender. Somebody thinks that they're a female or a male when they're not.
Yeah, based on the chemical composition in their brain that they inherited from their genes that code for different levels. So you're a male. You do have You have estrogen in you. Estrogen is the feminine,
sure.
Right, and so basically, when you inherit your genes that code for testosterone and estrogen, you can inherit different amounts of it. So you could be a male and inherit more of your mom's side and inherit more estrogen levels, and your brain composition is going to feel like a female.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but up until Francis Dubois came up with the gender theory, this was like nobody even talked about this. I mean, this is actually like a relatively new topic.
Of course,
I mean, like
we didn't discover genes at all. Of course, we didn't know what genes were. We couldn't study this stuff.
We knew what genes were back in like I believe the 40s or 50s or 60s when I mean, we've known about what genes are for probably the past at least 100 years. I mean, science hasn't that's not like super complex science there.
Genes were discovered in 1909.
Yeah, which is
Yeah.
well, it's probably.
But it's constantly developing. We didn't know the extremity of genes. We didn't know how they were inherited. We didn't know anything about polygenic genes, which have you can have one characteristic and have many different genes influence. But
yeah, I mean, like the issue here, like with us not agreeing, is just like the premise of how we define gender. I don't think that gender and sex are separate. I believe that they're the same thing. I mean, you look at like people's like birth certificates. Like my birth certificate says gender, male or female.
Yeah, because again, society we've kind of put gender and sex together because gender is trying to define you as a male or a female. But you can be a male and have very feminine characteristics. You can be a female and have very masculine characteristics.
That's just, I don't
really get why the right makes such a big deal out of it. If someone wants to be called a female, call them a female.
Yeah, I don't care. I would never like not call a person what they want to be called. Yeah. There's no reason to like start shit in public with them.
Oh yeah, that's it. That's the issue I have with like a Ben Shapiro type who's like, no, I will not call them if they want to be.
No. But so Ben Shapiro only won't call them that like if he's say on like a public debate stage because he doesn't want people to like get confused or something like that. Like if he's like at a family dinner or something with somebody that's transgender, obviously he's gonna call them what their gender is. Okay. But yeah, Ben Shapiro, I mean, he's a very good debater. I'll give him that, but I don't agree with him on a lot of stuff. Yeah. He's way too pro-Israel for me.
He is very pro-Israel.
But I mean, he's Jewish, so I can understand.
I'm Jewish too.
Really?
I'm bloodline Jewish, yeah.
I'm
atheist religiously, but
well, yeah, I'm bloodline, partly bloodline Jewish as well. Interesting. Your hair doesn't really look Jewish though. I kind of have like that little bit of a Jew fro going.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to go in a little bit because I start like online classes really early tomorrow, which kind of sucks. But we probably have like 5 minutes left, and then I'll have to go. The wage gap between men and women. What do you think about that? We can talk about that.
I be honest, I don't know much about it. So,
well, if you look at like, I think that the term wage gap is like very misleading because people just hear wage gap and they automatically assume that there's like employers that are actually paying women the less for the same job, which is not true. That's illegal. And if that's happening to anybody in the chat, y'all should go to like the police about it or get a lawyer because that's not legal. There was like the Equal Pay Act of 19 something.
As I know there's an amendment too that's trying to be ratified in some states, but yeah.
Yeah, and so the whole 78 cents on the dollar thing is kind of inaccurate because like if you actually so there was I don't remember who did the study, but some prestigious university did a study and they looked at like the top 10 biggest cities in the country and they actually looked at it, and so like the women with the same job qualifications as men in those 10 major biggest cities actually made more than men did in those cities. Yeah. So like
I've heard that that's sometimes misleading because sometimes it's simply the man has a better job, so they're getting paid more. But I honestly,
it is misleading because men are like 10 times more likely to die in the workplace than women are.
Yeah, I don't know much about it. I do know like the feminine products cost a little bit more than masculine products. That's kind of fucked up, but
that doesn't have anything to do with the wage gap.
Yeah, no.
Like the wage gap it's pretty much non-existent. I mean, it's a flawed statistic. I mean, men work on average longer hours. Men work significantly more hours overtime. Women take much more time off usually to take care of their kids, which I'm perfectly fine with that. Like women taking care of their kids, there's nothing wrong with that. But like the feminist movement, they doesn't like that. I mean, they want women like to be working the same as men, like when in reality, like there's nothing wrong with a woman taking time off to raise their kids. I don't understand.
I mean, I disagree with the current feminist movement, but when it originated, I obviously agree with the premise.
Well, when it originated, of course, like when women didn't have like
it's become a little authoritarian, too authoritarian for me.
Well, yeah, and like if you look at like the non-fascist groups in like America, like Antifa, those are the real fascists that are out there. Yeah. That's just I can't even understand that. Like there was a video of, I don't know if it was Antifa, but it was another hate group like that. They were like not letting an old woman and an old man like cross the street. Like they were like in their faces, like banging like drums, and it's terrible. Yeah.
Give us one more good.
Yeah, Antifa is so fascist. Like Trump is like in the process of declaring them a terrorist organization. It's kind of funny to me.
You're going to rot in hell.
I learned a lot tonight from you about the universal health care, though.
I think a lot of people. I mean, yeah.
I didn't know that much about it for sure. I would definitely say that
Oh.
if we were looking at it from like a who won that debate with the universal healthcare standpoint, you definitely won that. But I still, I mean, I just
No, we're not gonna get into religion, you fucks.
yeah, I mean,
No.
I'm pretty good at defending my religion. I took 4 years of apologetics in high school, so like I'm pretty good at like backing my faith. But if he doesn't want to get into it, that's perfectly fine with that. And I have to go in a few minutes anyway, so that would be a long conversation for another time. Maybe if you want to, I don't know if you'll want to. I can have you here on another time in the future and talk about religion. Proud Snowflake next debate. I will debate Proud Snowflake sometime this week, guys. I'm also having Joe Morris on. Who is the bigger weenus? Who is the bigger weenus?
Over Nick. Let's see. Can Joe beat Donald? No, Joe Biden.
No
okay, if it was today, maybe. But the economy.
Maybe.
But if the economy improves, then Joe Biden can't. No.
Dude, I saw this. Okay, so he was like giving us. I think he wasn't necessarily at a rally, but he was like giving a speech to somebody, and his wife like had to pull him off the stage because he was like, bye guys. And
he was like, oh, what? And then like a second time, she was like, Joe.
Do you think he has dementia?
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
I think he has some cognitive decline. I don't know what it is, Alzheimer's but yeah.
That's terrible. I don't get why people think that that's okay.
Mainstream media. That's where I agree with Trump on.
What? Like the media?
Yeah.
Yeah, the mainstream media but the mainstream media is more biased against Trump than they are Bernie. I mean, like CNN has like 98% negative coverage of Donald Trump. I mean, I don't think they have.
They're definitely biased against Trump, but they're definitely biased a hell of a lot for Bernie.
Yeah, I'm not saying they're not at all.
But the thing is, I'll call it like. Do you think Fox is biased?
So Fox actually gives Trump 46% negative coverage. So they are somewhat biased, but they're not like as biased as CNN is, in my opinion. Yeah, I read that somewhere that it was 46% negative coverage of Donald Trump. So if that's actually true, if that number is true, that's definitely not that biased. I mean, like you can look and like you know who Tucker Carlson is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Tucker Carlson. He was talking on Fox News like you remember when the 3 senators sold all their stocks after
he was
after the coronavirus? Yeah, he was going against them on that. So I mean, that just proves that not everybody on Fox is just like a Trump tard.
Yeah, I respect Tucker to a point. I mean, he's a little bit too white supremacist. I'm not saying he is one, but he has very rhetorical.
Like what?
Language. His retort is very similar to white nationalists. I mean, he talks talks a lot about immigrants. He talks a lot about the diversity in America increasing is a bad thing for America. I mean, he talks about like
I've never seen him say diversity is a bad thing.
Nah, he's been on Fox saying like that diversity is increasing in America, but is it really a good thing? But
I'll have to find that video. I've never seen that, but I mean, it might be out there. We'll see.
Death penalty. That's an easy one. What's your opinion on death penalty?
Well, this might strike y'all as I'm a pro-lifer, but I'm for capital punishment. I'm an eye for an eye kind of guy.
So my opinion on death penalty, I don't really disagree with like its premise of it. I don't agree like. Oh, I do agree. Like, I think if you're someone who, horrible human being, raped a girl.
Yeah, if you're a serial rapist
I believe in the death penalty on premise. However, in actuality, because 4% of the death on death row or later found innocent, I don't agree with it. So I agree with its premise in theory. Like, I completely agree with if you're a horrible human being to get the death penalty. But in practice, 4% of them are found innocent. So I just simply, no, we're not going to do it because if 4% of people are dying when they're innocent, I just, no, don't agree with that at all.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah.
Yep. Harrison Duncan. Isn't that Proud Snowflake, Harrison Duncan?
Yeah.
Yo, I'm going to get you, Proud Snowflake. I'm going to get you on, dude. I'm thinking
I think it is. What if it's just like a fan account? I'm guessing it is.
Oh, it might be. You never know. All right, we've been on here for 55 minutes. I'm gonna try and make it to an hour before I have to leave.
Yeah, that's good.
Brenna Shaw, I'm not sure why I blocked you on TikTok, but I probably did it for a reason.
Talk about white privilege.
I don't believe that the color of my skin helps me in life at all. I mean, I think
Let me ask you this.
Okay.
Have you ever faced discrimination based on your skin color?
Yes.
Ever? You have?
Through TikTok. There's people I've been called racist just because I'm a white Trump supporter.
I wouldn't necessarily say that's discrimination. That's just people being assholes. But
well, it is discrimination. I'm a white Trump supporter, therefore I'm racist. There's so many people that in this country that think
I would say white privilege is simply I've never had to deal with discrimination based on my skin color. Other people have. Whether it's I faced zero and they faced more, you can admit minorities have definitely faced way more discrimination than white people
in
have.
the past. Yeah,
right. And that's simply what white privilege is. It's not saying I have an advantage.
That's not how I see white. I think that's where we just define white privilege differently. I see white privilege as some advantage in society.
But you do have an advantage because you don't face disadvantages. That's the thing.
What's a disadvantage that minorities face other than like some racist people? Like a disadvantage other than some racist people.
Black people smoke pot at a lesser rate than white people, but they're in prison for it at a higher rate.
Well, the large majority of drug arrests are for distribution, not the use. So I would have to see a statistic that says whites distribute more.
Not on distribution, for use of marijuana. White people use marijuana at a higher rate, but black people are put in jail for use of marijuana at a higher rate. Than
I've seen. Okay, I know exactly. Are you referring to that one on the Washington Post, like with that graph? I'm almost 100% positive that graph was just like having like marijuana, like it was just marijuana related crimes.
Discrimination happens all the time. I mean, with black people and police, is obviously an issue going on there.
Like what?
Black people get shot by police at a higher rate than what? What do you mean, what?
Well, yeah, they get shot at a higher rate than whites because they commit more crime.
Yeah, but the innocent black people. You know how many innocent black people have been? Again, the marijuana one.
There was more innocent white people shot than innocent black people last year.
Innocent white people more than innocent.
There were more. I don't know about innocent, but overall last year there were more white people shot by police than black people shot by police.
Okay, but I think that it's simply, I mean, all the videos on the police. You don't think there's any racism in the police force?
No, I'm not saying there's not racist. I'm not saying there isn't racist police. I'm just saying that I don't think the justice system. I don't think that the law enforcement system itself is racist. I'm not denying that there's racist people in it. I mean, I think that. I mean, so you know, like the statistic that says African Americans are 5 times more likely to be shot by police than whites.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason for that. So I did the calculation. So white people account for 60% of the population. African Americans account for 13%. African Americans commit violent crime at about 7% higher than whites do. But the reason why they get shot so much more is because there's so many less of the reason they get shot at a much higher rate is because there is such a little amount of them committing more crime than 60% of the population. So like if you do the exact calculation, 60 divided by 13. So if that was let's say they commit the exact same amount of crime, and that would mean that African Americans would get shot at 4.6 times the rate as whites if they committed the exact same amount of crime, but they commit 7% more violent crime than whites do. So I would say that number is fairly even or on par of like what it should be. I don't think that the police should shoot anybody unless they're in threat of their life is in danger. But I would say saying that 5 times as many times number, I just think that that's fairly
but you have to
misleading.
You have to admit there is more of these shootings of African Americans. A larger majority is due to racism than if you look at white people. I mean, it's a very low percentage of police officers shooting someone that's white simply because they're white. I mean, there's definitely racism in the police force of police acting a different way towards black people. So
yeah, I think that as time goes on and like the boomers of the police force retire and whatever, and there's less racist people in the police force, I think that you'll see that number go down even more. I mean, like, so if you look at like the number of African Americans that get shot by police every year, it kind of goes up and down, but it's going up and down in a trend like this, like over time. If you look at it like on a huge graph from like the last 50 years, so it goes up and down, but it's going up and down, and it has a trend of
and if you look at unemployment, under Obama, it went down, and then Trump continued that.
Okay.
You're using a graph in that. Okay, so then you can't say
here's the thing. So the reason why Obama's looks so good on paper is because he did this all post-recession. Of course, the unemployment is going to go like this post-recession, but the fact that Trump can continue that rate way after post-recession times, I think says a lot.
I give Trump credit. You didn't fuck up the unemployment. You kept it going. at a good rate. But
No. But that's a little dishonest by saying that, because Obama had the unemployment going down, but it was during a post-recession time. If you look at any of the presidents that were post-recession time, it just goes down like that. But the fact that Trump actually has he has continued the longest. Obama and Trump combined have the longest downward trend of unemployment out of any president ever, like longest by year.
But I disagreed with Obama when he used unemployment as a statistic. I think that's not a very good statistic about how the economy is doing.
I didn't say that's not how I measure the economy.
No, but I definitely give Trump some credit for the unemployment. I would just say that's a shit measure of our economy.
Yeah, I wasn't saying that was how we're measuring the economy. I just said that the fact that he has continued the longest downward trend of unemployment ever in history.
What policy did he do to do that?
The Tax Cuts and Jobs Act.
That's not empirically tied to it. That's not at all.
It could be.
Well, during the 1950s, we had 92%.
But again,
but you can always.
But again, that's also very misleading, because in the 1950s, that was post-war time. So like obviously, when you're a post-war economy, and literally every other major country in the world other than Russia is wiped out to the ground, and the U.S. is the only country that's producing stuff that's like producing manufacturing stuff. Obviously, the unemployment and everything is going to go down, because so many countries around the world were buying from us and buying our products. So the companies were making so much profit back then. It wasn't really that high income. And also back in that time, the rich had tons of ways to get around that 92% tax. None of them, barely any of them were paying that much.
It was around 52%, and that's exactly what Bernie's proposing. But if you look at the tax cuts, it's empirically proven that the majority of those tax cuts, they went to stock buybacks. So I completely agree with the philosophy of capitalism, in that if you're going to make a profit, you're going to then put that profit back into your workers. You're going to put it back into your business and grow. And that's something that Amazon has done very well, growing the company, not necessarily the wages. But there's a third option that didn't used to exist back in the 1950s, but stock buybacks were banned. But now they're not banned. You can do stock buybacks, which is basically artificially increasing the wealth of your business, and it's an economic bubble.
You're still putting money back into the business, though, when you're buying stock.
It's not expanding the business at all. It's not increasing the wages. It's putting it into the stock market to artificially increase your stock prices.
Well, not necessarily, because the money that you put into the stock market goes directly into the company. When you buy a $10,000 worth of shares in Amazon, that money goes to Amazon.
Yeah, but it's the CEOs of Amazon that are doing it. So
I understand, but they're still putting their own money back into their company. I understand that it doesn't really artificially inflate the price of the stock. It does, and it inflates the price of the stock, yes, but it's not artificially. It's not really artificially. It's just
yes, because if they had put that back into the business and the business grew, then their stock would increase. That's a real increase.
What's the problem with that?
Because that's I'm okay with that. I'm perfectly fine. But that's not what they're doing. They're not investing in the company and the stocks are going up. They're buying the stocks themselves to make the stocks seem like they're higher and their business is more than it actually is. I agree with capitalism, but I want to save capitalism similar to FDR did. He saved capitalism because of stock buybacks that are happening. I completely agree with
that's not why the Great Depression happened. The Great Depression did not happen because of stock buybacks. The Great Depression happened because people were buying stocks on credit, and then the stocks started declining, and they couldn't pay them back.
But stock buybacks were legal, and then FDR came, and I think FDR or someone after.
I'm not necessarily for stock buybacks. I'm just saying.
Would you be okay with making stock buybacks illegal?
I have to research it more, and then I can give you an answer.
Okay.
I actually have to go because I have an early class at like 8 in the morning. I don't even know what blue waffle is. What is that?
Blue waffle. Let me look it up real quick. What?
What is it?
A fictional STD? What? Okay.
Alrighty, guys. I'm gonna hop off.
We just got baited.
We got baited. All right. It was great having you on, Nevin.
Yeah, you too, Nick.
I'll have to have you on here some other time.
Yeah, of course.
So yeah, I will see y'all later. Hope y'all will be on my next live stream. Bye, everybody.
See ya.